creativity, if not fostered in a careful manner, becomes boring, mundane, and ultimately non-creative in nature. We refer to this effect as burning out. Everyone gets burnout from time to time, but how do we prevent it? And arguably, more importantly, how do we get back to be creative once we burn out? What's up, guys? If you don't know me, my name is Sean and I run a production company full-time. And in this video, we're gonna talk about how to avoid burnout and how to get out of burnout quickly in as little as 2 days. I have been doing this for almost a decade at this point, and whether it's been part-time or full-time, I have experienced burnout. I often see many creatives getting burnt out even if they don't do this full-time like I do. In this video, I'm gonna tell you how to avoid burnout, and even when you do feel burnout, how to get back in the creative saddle in just a couple of days. So let's get into it with point 1. Point number 1, recognizing you're burning out. I know that sounds simple and that sounds easy, but oftentimes we get lazy, complacent, and just downright don't want to do things. And that is the start of burnout. Nipping it in the bud right there is the best thing you can do for yourself. Just doing a quick self-check is the easiest way to avoid burnout each and every time. My recommendation is always to switch things up in some way or another. Do a project for free, do projects differently, edit differently, color differently, decide to do something differently. I often find this works best when I'm forcing myself to do something that I don't want to do. If you're lazy, if you're getting complacent, making yourself do something hard is probably the easiest and guaranteeable way to get out of that burnout when it's starting to happen. My solution is often to do this in a YouTube video, but we'll get more into that in point number 3. Point number 2 is probably the biggest that I see in most beginners, intermediates, and those who aren't doing this full-time, but even then, those who sometimes are doing this full-time. And that is doing one thing for too long. It's the worst. I see it all the time. I myself will get stuck in this. I will just do one thing way longer than I should. In my opinion, switching things up just a little bit to like an 80-20 can be incredibly helpful. DPs and cinematographers get burnt out because they're not doing anything different. They need a switch up, they need a change up. And because they're not doing anything within their work, well, it's kind of hard to force that sometimes. I think doing 80% of that hard, normal work, maybe if that's weddings or sports for you, is fine. But getting 20% of something else or some things else can really, really help. My solution to fixing this is honestly just switch it up. Even if you can get to like an 80-20, 80 of the thing that you don't like and that's gonna burn you out, and 20 of something interesting, something different, can make a huge difference in how you feel day to day, especially how you feel about your work. Okay, next, point number 3, being intentional about anything you can. Honestly, I feel like this is a hugely just overlooked aspect of videography and filmmaking. It's very easy to just be like, oh, I'm shooting a wedding, I'm shooting some social media content, I'm shooting a YouTube video. Let me just do it how I'm used to and not be intentional. The best way to prevent yourself from getting in a creative rut and getting burnt out is to just go, you know what, I'm gonna create a mood board for a wedding. I'm gonna create a shot list of at least shots that I want to get. Let me try and light this kind of way, even though it's natural light, let me work with it. Let me try some new things in editing and color grading. Just being intentional before you even do something with what you're gonna do will seriously help elevate your game and avoid burnout. I remember when I first started and I was just doing this part-time, barely even part-time, I was getting burnout all the time. The best thing that changed that was just being intentional with all of my shoots, changing things up and trying to get better. Every time I tried to get better, I was more intentional. Every time I was more intentional, I was more creative. Every time I was more creative, I produced better stuff and got burnout way less. It's just that easy. At the beginning of the video, I said that I would tell you how to get out of creative burnout in just a few days. I do agree a day or two of minimal or no creative work can definitely help, but there's a trick I use that pretty much guarantees it gets you back in the saddle in just a day or two, almost every single time. When you get burnout, it's easy to just take time off and rest a few days, but not everybody has that luxury. Being able to get back into the creative saddle really quickly is incredibly important and a skill you should probably have in your tool belt. I will warn you, the process isn't necessarily easy. It takes some effort, and honestly, the more effort you put into this, the more you're gonna get out of it. First, I sit down and I write a script. I know, pretty basic. Then I plan a shot list and a mood board, and ultimately I just go out and shoot a video. I know it sounds pretty easy and pretty simple, but I'll be honest with you, the more effort you put into it, the more you're gonna get out of it. Being lazy and complacent and just writing something quickly just to get it done, it's not gonna work. The more effort you put in, the more you feel like you've invested, and therefore the more you're gonna get out of it. So in other words, if you can put 2, 3, or 4 days into a thoughtful creative process, that will absolutely jump you out of what creative rut you're in. Typically it takes me 1 or 2 days. However, if you feel like you're particularly struggling, maybe taking longer and doing less work each day, but still getting some work done for your own creative story can absolutely help. I usually put 3 to 5 times the amount of effort into these projects. Just adding more really helps me get out of that creative rut. The more effort you put in, like I said earlier, the quicker you're gonna get out of this and the more you're gonna get out of this. Usually this is a YouTube project or a personal project, and this video is kind of actually a culmination of the both because I'm trying to get out of that creative rut myself right now. I felt some burnout recently, so I decided to take a lot of extra effort to build this video. That's why you're seeing a lot of B-roll, a lot of different shots, and ultimately a lot more creativity, different location than you would typically see in one of my videos. The reason I suggest doing a YouTube video or a personal creative project is that gives you that creative freedom that you wouldn't get when working for a client. And if you want to get out of your creative rut, doing something that you enjoy is important. Not that it couldn't be client work as well. Getting out of a creative rut ultimately just does take effort. You can't just wait for inspiration to hit and the burnout to end. You have to take action yourself if you want something to happen anytime soon. I personally don't know anybody who works professionally in a creative field who just waits for inspiration to hit. Never. They work, they create inspiration, they are creative and they're skilled and they put out good work each and every day, no matter whether they're burnt out or they have inspiration. They just do every day and they create phenomenal stuff. You can too. You should be able to enjoy what you're creating, whether you are inspired in the moment or not. That is definitely a telltale sign of true professionalism and skill, and also experience within a respected industry. Honestly, some of my best work has even come from just putting my head down and doing it. Not every project I do, in fact, I'd probably argue most of the projects I do aren't things that I feel inspired to do or want to do. But when you put your head down, you put in the work, and you force yourself to be creative, you can absolutely do some amazing things, and you might even be incredibly proud of it by the end of the job. And on the flip side of that, there's a lot of projects that I felt inspired to do and then got into the thick of it and just immediately lost inspiration, and it didn't turn out incredibly great. Again, if you want to get out of a burnout, then honestly, what you got to do? Well, you got to work for it. Forcing yourself to take time on something ensures quality and ensures that you're going to work hard and turn out something that is ultimately good. And that is what will ultimately get you back in the creative saddle. Okay, so honestly, the best way to not burn out or to get out of burnout is just to stay creative. I know that that's pretty much what I've talked about in this video, but all in all, creativity really stifles burnout. If you can keep doing a new thing in a new way, or even if it's the same thing in a different way, then you can avoid burnout or get out of it very quickly. Something else I want to touch on, honestly, is that we all get burnout. Burnout is not something you feel just as a beginner. It's something that experts who've been doing this for years and years and years still get from time to time. Learning how to manage your burnout and manage your creative load is a part of the learning process. Obviously, those who've been doing it longer are going to experience that less. But just so you know, you're not alone in your burnout or your creative slump. You can work, stay creative, get back in that creative saddle, and you'll be back to it in no time. It's not a you thing, it's something we all experience. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time.